I refused to celebrate my girlfriend's silly tradition of a half-birthday. Hello, Reddit. I never thought I'd end up posting here, but after the last few weeks, I genuinely don't know if I'm losing my mind or if my girlfriend and I are living in two different realities. For the sake of anonymity, I'll call her Lily. We've been together for almost 2 years. I'm 29, she's 27. I work as an IT consultant, logical, structured, sometimes maybe too pragmatic. Lily's the opposite. She's creative, spontaneous, full of emotions. She's the type of person who can turn a regular Tuesday into a festival. She decorates her apartment for every possible occasion: Christmas, Valentine's, Halloween, even National Coffee Day. When we first started dating, I found it charming. Her enthusiasm was contagious. I'd never been with someone who could find meaning in such small things. For someone like me, who measures life in deadlines and deliverables, her world felt like a breath of color. I remember our first date. She showed up 10 minutes late, holding a bouquet of wildflowers she'd picked herself on the way because she said, "I didn't want to come empty-handed to a first impression." I thought it was ridiculous, but adorable. That's Lily, ridiculous and adorable in one chaotic package. Everyone around us said we looked like the perfect match. The calm, rational guy and the bright, emotional girl. You balance each other out, they said. And for the first year, that felt true. We traveled, cooked together, fought playfully about movies. She'd surprise me with little notes in my lunchbox or plan mini celebrations, just because life's too short to wait for the weekend. But over time, I began to notice something. Lily didn't just love celebrations, she needed them. They weren't just fun to her, they were proof that she was loved, valued, seen. If I forgot to bring flowers after a long week, she'd pout for hours. If I said, "Hey, can we skip dinner out tonight? I'm exhausted," she'd say, "It's fine." But that fine was never fine. It always came with days of silence and emotional distance. Still, I told myself it was a small price for love. Everyone has quirks, right? Until the half-birthday thing. I remember it clearly. 6 months after her actual birthday, we were sitting on the couch watching a show when she turned to me suddenly and said it. "You do know my half-birthday's coming up, right?" I laughed. I thought she was joking. "Your what?" I said. "My half-birthday," she smiled. "It's exactly 6 months after my real birthday. My mom used to make me cupcakes when I was a kid and it kinda stuck. It's like my little tradition." Now look, I'm not a monster. I get that some people like quirky traditions, but I genuinely thought she was being playful, so I joked back. So I need to prepare another present just to survive, huh?" She giggled, or maybe I thought she did. Turns out she wasn't joking, not even a little. A week before the date, she started dropping hints, casually, like someone not being casual at all. "Remember how cute those cupcakes from Sweet Daisy's were? I saw this ring in a local shop, so delicate, totally my vibe." And then the kicker. Nobody's ever really celebrated my half-birthday before. I guess it's not important to everyone. I brushed it off. I mean, I had work deadlines. My mom was recovering from surgery, and honestly, I didn't think half-birthdays were a thing adults cared about. The day came, March 14th. I didn't prepare anything. No dinner, no flowers. We just had pizza and watched Netflix like usual. She didn't say a word that night. Not one. The next morning she was quiet, too quiet. I asked, "Everything okay?" She said, "Yeah." But her tone said otherwise. By the evening, I couldn't stand the tension. "What's going on?" I asked. And she said something that, at the time, sounded completely insane to me. "It just hurts that you didn't care enough to celebrate something that means a lot to me." I blinked. "Lily, it's a half-birthday. I didn't even know adults did that." She crossed her arms. "You didn't want to know, that's the problem." That line, it stayed with me, because it wasn't about cupcakes or balloons. It was about meaning. To her, my refusal wasn't about a missed date. It was about rejection. To me, it was about logic. We can't celebrate every random milestone. That night, we went to bed separately for the first time in our relationship. Over the next few days, she withdrew more and more. I tried to talk to her, but everything I said felt wrong. She'd sigh, roll her eyes, or reply with one-word answers. Finally, I said, "Lily, I'm sorry I didn't take your half-birthday seriously. I didn't mean to hurt you." And she said, "You always say sorry after, but never before. You never think how I might feel." That cut deep, because part of me wondered if she was right. Was I emotionally lazy, or was she just demanding too much? I didn't know anymore. Then she posted a funny Instagram story, a picture of a cupcake with a caption, "When your boyfriend forgets your half-birthday, but you treat yourself anyway, nail broken." My stomach dropped. Her friends started sending her heart emojis, supportive DMs. I became the bad guy in a story I didn't even know I was part of. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. And for the first time, I felt tired of walking on emotional eggshells. Every holiday, every date, every small milestone, it was a test. And somehow, no matter what I did, I always failed it. I didn't want to stop loving her, but I was starting to feel like her boyfriend resume instead of her partner, someone constantly being graded on performance. And that's when I realized this half-birthday fight wasn't about the date itself. It was about how differently we defined love. To me, love was shown through consistency, being there, helping, listening. To her, it was demonstrated, surprises, symbols, visible affection. And the worst part, neither of us was wrong. We were just incompatible in ways we hadn't faced yet. That was the start of the unraveling. The fight about the half-birthday opened doors we couldn't close again. Because when a small misunderstanding becomes a symbol of "you don't care," it's never really about the cupcakes anymore. After the half-birthday argument, I thought things would eventually cool down. They didn't. In fact, the silence became its own language, heavier than any fight we'd ever had. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself Lily just needed space. But days went by, and the apartment felt cold. She'd walk past me like a ghost. No good morning, no how was work. When she finally did talk, her tone was distant, polite, the kind of politeness that feels like punishment. One night I came home early, hoping to fix things. I brought her favorite takeout, dimmed the lights, put on a movie she liked. She sat through dinner quietly, scrolling her phone. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "It's funny, my friend Megan's boyfriend made her a whole cake for her half-birthday. He even got her flowers." I froze. There it was again, the comparison game. I said softly, "That's nice of him. I guess he likes doing that stuff." She didn't even look up. "Yeah, must be nice to feel special sometimes." That line hit like a dart. I wanted to defend myself, to explain that I did make her feel special, just not in the Instagram-worthy way she expected. But I also knew any defense would sound like an excuse. So I stayed quiet. And that silence was my mistake. The next weekend, we went out with her friends. It was supposed to be casual dinner and drinks. But halfway through, one of her friends, Megan, the same one with the cake-baking boyfriend, laughed and said, "So Lily, did you ever get your half-birthday celebration or what?" I swear, I felt the blood drain from my face. Lily gave this tight, awkward smile. "Nope, apparently that's not something adults do." The whole table went silent for half a second before everyone laughed. You know, that polite, nervous laughter people use when they don't know which side to take. I forced a laugh too, but my chest felt like it was burning. When we got home, I asked, "Did you really have to say that in front of everyone?" She crossed her arms. "You embarrassed me first." I blinked. "How? By not baking you a cake for a fake holiday?" Her expression hardened. "See, you're still mocking me. You can't just admit it hurt my feelings." And maybe she was right, I was mocking her, but only because I felt ridiculous. Because to me, it wasn't about a cake or a date. It was about how she was making me feel small for not performing her definition of love. We didn't speak for 2 days after that. Lily started sleeping over at her friend's place more often. Girls' nights, she said. When she was home, she was glued to her phone, scrolling, posting, reacting. Then one evening, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the table. I didn't snoop, but the notification flashed just long enough for me to read it. Megan, girl, he seriously didn't even get you a cupcake. I'd dump him tbh skull. I felt something twist in my gut. Not jealousy, more like humiliation. It wasn't just a private fight anymore. It had become content. And it hit me. Lily didn't just want an apology. She wanted an audience for it. That Sunday we finally talked, really talked. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, like strangers negotiating a treaty. I said, Lily, I feel like this fight isn't about a birthday anymore. It's about control. She frowned. Control? Are you serious? I just wanted you to show me you care. I do care, I said, but it feels like you only believe it when it's visible, when there's something you can post or show off. I'm not wired that way. Her eyes welled up instantly. You make it sound like I'm fake. No, I said gently. I think you're just expressive, but sometimes it feels like I'm failing an exam I didn't sign up for. She wiped her tears and whispered, I don't need grand gestures. I just wanted one day that felt special. I wanted to believe that, I really did. But something deep down told me this wasn't just about one day. Over the next few weeks, things stabilized, at least on the surface. We went out again, we smiled for pictures, we even joked about half-birthdays once or twice. But under that calm, something had shifted. I started to feel like every good deed I did was a form of emotional repayment, like I owed her affection for my earlier mistake. If I brought home coffee, see, you can be thoughtful. If I cooked dinner, guess someone's learning. I know she meant it playfully, but it didn't feel playful. It felt like probation. Like I was earning back points in some invisible relationship scoreboard. Then came her friend's engagement party. We were supposed to go together, but that morning, I woke up to a migraine. I told her I might skip. I could barely stand without my vision blurring. She looked at me, sighed, and said, You're not coming. You know how important this is to me. I literally feel like my skull's splitting, I said, pressing my temples. She shook her head. You always have a reason not to show up when it matters. That phrase, when it matters, again. The same one from the half-birthday argument. It was like she had a list of important moments, and I kept failing every test. I stayed home. That night she didn't come back. The next morning, I woke up to see she'd posted a picture. Her in a dress, holding champagne, surrounded by friends. Caption, Some people show up for you, some don't, and that tells you everything. I didn't need to scroll through the comments to know what they said. Things like, you deserve better. He sounds selfish. Red flag behavior skull. And the worst part, she didn't delete it, not even after I saw it. That night she came home acting like nothing happened. I asked, You really had to post that? She shrugged, It wasn't about you. I laughed bitterly. Then who the hell was it about, Lily? Her face changed, cold, defensive. You know what your problem is. You think love is doing the bare minimum and expecting a medal for it. I snapped. I said things I regret. I told her she was obsessed with appearances, that she didn't know what real love looked like, that she was addicted to attention. She cried, called me emotionally unavailable. We shouted until the neighbors banged on the wall. And when it was over, I didn't feel relief, just emptiness. For the next few days, she packed some of her things and stayed with her sister. She said she needed time to think. Her last words before leaving were, You make me feel like I'm too much, but maybe you're just not enough. That one stuck. Because deep down, I was starting to believe it. I replayed everything, every missed gesture, every forgotten flower, every maybe later. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe I was the bad guy. Maybe I'd grown so numb, so rational, that I couldn't meet her emotional needs. But another part of me whispered, should love really feel like a constant exam? When you're in a relationship long enough, you start keeping mental ledgers, what you've given, what you've received. But love shouldn't be math. And yet with Lily, everything felt transactional. Every "I love you" came with an invisible "prove it." I started seeing a pattern, how she turned every small disappointment into proof of neglect, and how I, trying to avoid conflict, kept apologizing for simply being myself. It wasn't until a friend of mine, a quiet, thoughtful guy who'd been through a messy breakup, told me something that stuck. You're not supposed to perform love, you're supposed to live it. That night I realized I was performing, smiling when I didn't want to, saying you're right just to keep the peace, walking on eggshells to avoid another explosion over something trivial. And I was tired. A week later, Lily texted me. "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop. She looked tired too, eyes puffy, hair pulled back, no makeup. She said she missed me, that she overreacted, that she just wanted to feel appreciated. I told her I missed her too, but I couldn't keep living in fear of the next emotional test. She looked hurt, then she smiled sadly. "So that's it, you're giving up because I care too much." I didn't know what to say, because maybe she was right in her own way. Maybe she did care too much. But caring without boundaries isn't love, it's control dressed as devotion. We left the cafe without deciding anything. Just a long hug, full of confusion. That was the day I realized our relationship wasn't broken because of a missed celebration. It was broken because we spoke different emotional languages, and neither of us knew how to translate. Next time, I'll tell you how it all came to a head, when Lily took our private conflict public on Reddit, and how reading strangers' opinions about my relationship changed everything. You know that weird, sinking feeling when you realize your life has quietly turned into a story for someone else's entertainment. That's how I felt when I opened Reddit one morning and saw my relationship staring back at me. It started on a random Tuesday. I was at work, buried in code, when my phone buzzed with a text from a friend. "Bro, is this you?" He sent me a link to a Reddit post, "Our Relationships," top of the feed. Title: My 27F boyfriend, 29M, refuses to celebrate my half-birthday and it's making me feel unloved. Am I overreacting? I swear my stomach dropped. I clicked it, and there it was, every detail of our private argument laid out for millions to judge. She'd written about how I mocked her for wanting to celebrate something sentimental, how I made her feel stupid for caring, how I laughed at her childhood tradition. She left out a few things, like how she compared me to her friend's boyfriend in front of everyone, or how she turned the whole thing into an Instagram pity party. But the tone was perfect, victimized, wounded, relatable. It read like a screenplay. He says he loves me, but sometimes it feels like he just doesn't see me. Am I asking for too much? The comments exploded. Thousands of people rushed to tell her she wasn't crazy, that I sounded emotionally unavailable, narcissistic, dismissive. One comment with 12K upvotes said, "Girl, dump him. You deserve a man who celebrates you, not one who makes you feel small for having feelings." I sat at my desk staring at the screen, feeling hollow. Because part of me wanted to scream that they were wrong, that they didn't know the whole story. But another part whispered, they don't need to know, she already won. By the time I got home that night, Lily was sitting on the couch, scrolling her phone. I stood in the doorway and said quietly, "I saw your Reddit post." She froze, then put her phone down slowly. "Oh," she said, "I didn't think you'd find it." "You wrote about me to strangers?" I asked. Her voice trembled slightly. "I didn't name you, I just needed advice." I laughed, not the funny kind, the tired, defeated kind. "Advice? You turned our fight into content, Lily. People are calling me abusive." She flinched. "I didn't say you were abusive." "No," I said, "but you didn't stop them from saying it either." She looked down. "I just felt alone." That line cut deep because it was true. She had felt alone. But so had I. The difference was, I didn't tell the whole internet about it. For the next few days, I couldn't stop checking the post. Thousands of comments, reposts, screenshots. It even got picked up by some Reddit drama, YouTube channels, her words being narrated with sad background music, comments flashing across the screen like bullets. Men like this don't change. Emotional neglect is abuse. Half birthday today, emotional abandonment tomorrow. Each one chipped away at me. Not because I believed them, but because she did nothing to stop it. At one point, I even read a comment that said, "If your boyfriend won't celebrate your half birthday, he'll probably forget your anniversary too." Someone replied, "Bet he's one of those guys who doesn't believe in Valentine's Day. Major red flag." And all I could think was, how did we get here? How did a small disagreement about a silly tradition turn into an international case study on emotional cruelty? 3 nights later, I came home late after work. Lily was on the couch, phone in hand again, scrolling Reddit. I didn't say a word, I just sat opposite her. After a few minutes, she spoke. "You're angry." "I'm disappointed," I said. She frowned. "I told you I just needed advice. You act like I posted your full name." "It's not about my name," I said quietly. "It's about trust. You broke it." She crossed her arms. "You broke mine first, when you dismissed something important to me." I stood up pacing. "So this is revenge?" Her voice cracked. "No, this is me finally being heard. You never listened to me, but thousands of people did." And that was the moment I realized. She didn't see it as betrayal. She saw it as validation. The weirdest part came a week later. We'd barely spoken since that night, but one morning, she walked into the kitchen smiling. Like nothing happened. "I've been thinking," she said cheerfully, "maybe we could do something special for your birthday next month, like make it fun again." I just stared at her. "Are you serious?" She tilted her head. "What?" "You humiliated me in front of millions of strangers, and now you want to plan a party." She sighed, frustrated. "You're still hung up on that. It wasn't about you, it was about how I felt." I said nothing, because what could I say? Logic didn't work here. I was arguing with emotion, raw, wounded, self-righteous emotion, and emotion always wins. Then came the call from my mom. She said, "Honey, is everything okay with Lily?" Apparently, one of her coworkers' daughters follows the same Reddit subs. She'd recognized details in the story, my job, our city, the half-birthday thing, and connected the dots. I wanted to sink through the floor. I had to reassure my mother that I wasn't emotionally abusive, just dating someone who overshares on the internet. That's when the humiliation turned into something darker, resentment. Not just toward Lily, but toward myself. For staying, for letting it happen. Eventually, Lily took the post down. Or maybe it was removed by mods, I'm not sure. She came to me one night and said softly, "I deleted it, happy now." "Was that supposed to be an apology?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You'll never understand what it feels like to be unheard." And she walked away. That night, I opened a blank Reddit tab myself. I hovered over the Create Post button. For the first time, I wanted to tell my side. To show that I wasn't some cold, careless monster. But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew that would just make things worse. Two sides screaming into the void, hoping strangers would give them closure. Still, I read through her comments again. And one stood out, buried deep in the thread. "I think your boyfriend just doesn't express love the same way you do. Maybe it's not about who's right, it's about compatibility." That single comment had only 14 upvotes. But it hit harder than the top voted hate. Because that person got it. After that, we stayed together, technically. But something essential had died. We coexisted, two people sharing space, avoiding eye contact, tiptoeing around the ghosts of a public argument that had gone viral. Every time she smiled at her phone, I felt a little sick. Every time she said, "It's just my friends," I wondered if she meant Reddit. And she started using phrases, she'd picked up from the comments. Things like, "You need to work on your emotional availability. You gaslight me when you say it's not a big deal. This is emotional neglect, you know." It was like watching someone I loved slowly get rewritten by strangers. After a while, their words started to sink in. Maybe I was emotionally unavailable. Maybe I was dismissive, or cold, or broken in ways I didn't even see. Because honestly, when you read the same criticism enough times, it stops sounding like an opinion and starts feeling like truth. I found myself second-guessing everything I said. Every pause, every sigh, every silence. Was I being unkind or just tired? Was I being distant or simply quiet? It's terrifying when you stop trusting your own perception, because that's when you start to disappear. The real breaking point came a few months later, ironically, on her actual birthday. I'd planned a small surprise dinner, invited a few friends, booked her favorite restaurant, even bought her the exact necklace she'd once pointed out in a shop window. Everything went perfectly until someone made a toast. One of her friends lifted her glass and said, "To Lily, the girl who finally taught her boyfriend how to celebrate properly." Everyone laughed. She laughed too. I smiled on the outside. Inside, something snapped. I realized that no matter what I did, I'd never be more than the guy who didn't celebrate the half-birthday. That was my label now, my character arc. The villain in her story, redeemed, but never forgiven. That night after everyone left, she hugged me tight and whispered, "See, you can be amazing when you want to." And for some reason, instead of warmth, I felt nothing but exhaustion. 2 weeks later, I moved out. No screaming, no drama, just quiet finality. I told her I needed space, and for once she didn't argue. She just said softly, "I hope someday you meet someone who doesn't make you feel like love is a burden." And I walked out the door, knowing she'd probably write about it online the next day. Sometimes I wonder what's worse, being hated by strangers for something you didn't do, or being loved conditionally by someone who never really saw you. Either way, I lost myself somewhere between those Reddit comments and her half-birthday cupcakes. It all started when I thought I could finally breathe. After moving out, I kept my distance. No contact for weeks, no calls, no text, just silence. I thought this would give me clarity, a chance to rebuild myself. I was wrong. One evening, a friend messaged me. "Dude, have you seen this?" He sent a link to YouTube. I almost didn't want to click it, but curiosity, that stupid, fatal curiosity, won. It was Lily, sitting in her living room, talking directly to the camera. Title: "He refused to celebrate my half-birthday. Am I overreacting?" I froze. She recounted everything. Every slight, every missed gesture, every dismissive look, embroidered with dramatic music, close-up shots of cupcakes and candles. She even held up screenshots of some Reddit comments she had saved, like proof that the world agreed with her. By the time I got to the 3-minute mark, my stomach had turned to lead. Comments exploded, thousands. "This is emotional abuse. I can't believe men like this still exist. Half-birthday. If he can't celebrate that, he'll never appreciate you." There were even compilations, clips of her talking, overlaid with dramatic captions set to somber music. Within hours, it had hundreds of thousands of views. And worse, mutual friends started messaging me, asking if I was okay or if that story online was true. Some texts were supportive, others accusatory. "You really did this to her. I can't believe you'd make someone feel like that." I couldn't defend myself, not without sounding defensive, not without making it worse. For the first time in years, I felt truly powerless. Not just embarrassed or frustrated, powerless. I tried talking to Lily. "Lily, this isn't right. You're exposing private things to the world." Her eyes sparkled with a strange intensity. "This is right. I finally feel like someone sees me. You didn't, but millions do now." And there it was. My entire relationship had been distilled into a public morality play, with me as the villain. It didn't take long for people to start choosing sides. My coworkers quietly avoided me at lunch. Friends subtly stopped inviting me out. Her friends rallied around her. Even my family, well, they didn't say it, but the way they looked at me made it clear. I had become that guy. Finally, I confronted her in person. Lily, this isn't about the half-birthday anymore. You've made me look like a monster. I already told you, she said calmly. I needed the world to understand how I feel. You never did. But it's our life, not theirs. And you never cared enough to make me feel special. So yes, it is theirs now. We argued until we were both shouting. Strangers, opinions had infiltrated our relationship so deeply that I didn't know what was real anymore. I left her apartment shaking. I didn't know if I was angry, sad, or both. Probably both, multiplied by 1,000. Over the next week, the video spread like wildfire. Strangers sent me messages, LinkedIn requests, Instagram DMs, even Twitter replies criticizing me. It was surreal. I was living my life, but my narrative had been hijacked. Everything I did, even things I thought were considerate, was filtered through the lens of her story. I couldn't post my side. That would make me defensive. That would validate her narrative. And yet each day, her story gained traction. I stopped answering calls. I stopped going out. Even small things became unbearable. Checking my phone. Walking past her apartment. Seeing mutual friends on social media. I'd lie awake at night, replaying conversations, trying to find a moment where I'd actually done something wrong. And honestly, sometimes I wondered if maybe I had. I searched for mentions online, Reddit threads, Instagram posts, YouTube comments. My name wasn't mentioned, but the details made it obvious. City, job, age, her description of me. Anyone who knew me could figure it out. By the third day, I realized my private life was gone. The story was out, and I couldn't stop it. I tried reaching out to her friends. Please tell her to take the video down. It's causing real damage. The replies ranged from dismissive to accusatory. He sounds terrible, don't defend him. She's right to feel hurt. No one listened. One evening, I received a notification. A popular YouTube drama channel had picked up the video. Top 5 most controversial AITA stories this month. Her story was one. They narrated her side with the Reddit thread on screen, comments scrolling by. Thousands of people were now weighing in on a fight that happened in my living room. I stared at my reflection in the screen. I didn't recognize myself. After that, I withdrew completely. I quit social media for a while, blocked numbers, changed routines. Even my work suffered. I couldn't concentrate. My anxiety skyrocketed. Panic attacks became routine. All because of one silly argument about cupcakes and a half-birthday. It wasn't just about the half-birthday anymore. It was about control, boundaries, and privacy. About how quickly emotions could be weaponized online. About how millions of strangers could rewrite your life story, and how little you could do to stop it. Eventually, I realized something hard. Some battles aren't meant to be won. I could scream, post, argue, or I could survive. I chose survival. I moved cities, changed jobs, tried to build a life that wasn't constantly judged by strangers. And slowly, I began to heal. But the lesson was clear. Love, privacy, and emotional boundaries aren't just personal. They're fragile, and once broken, they can become public spectacle. The public scrutiny was devastating, but the most painful part, realizing that the fight never really started with the half-birthday. It started with a lack of understanding, with different definitions of love, with boundaries that were never respected. I never imagined my life could be dissected, judged, and retold by strangers worldwide, all because of cupcakes and a half-birthday. But that's what happened. After the public meltdown, the viral video, the Reddit thread, and the endless commentary, I finally realized, if I wanted to survive, I had to reclaim my story, not by arguing, not by defending myself, but by facing reality. The first step was hard. I spent hours alone, replaying every argument, every misgesture, every "I'm sorry" I'd ever offered. I asked myself, was I really emotionally unavailable? Did I dismiss her feelings? Was I cold, careless, or selfish? And the truth was complicated. Yes, I wasn't perfect. I didn't understand every nuance of Lily's emotional world. I sometimes prioritized logic over sentiment, structure over spontaneity. But at the same time, she weaponized emotions. She compared me publicly. She posted my private life online. She framed me as abusive when I had never laid a hand on her. The realization was brutal. This wasn't just about me failing as a boyfriend. It was about incompatible emotional languages and boundaries being ignored. I began journaling, writing down events in chronological order. I noticed patterns, minor disagreements snowballing into emotional blackmail, private arguments turning public without my consent, constant comparison to others and to ideal behavior, my own self-doubt increasing every time I tried to defend myself. It became clear I had been manipulated, yes, but also complicit. I had tolerated behaviors I shouldn't have. I had stayed silent when I should have set boundaries. Weeks after the video, I finally posted my side on Reddit. Not as a counterattack, not as an apology, just the facts, plain honest, without emotion or blame. Title: AITA for not celebrating my girlfriend's half-birthday. I outlined the timeline, explained my intentions, the comparisons, the public posting of private arguments, the emotional pressure. The thread didn't blow up, it didn't get viral. It got thoughtful comments. It sounds like you tried, but your emotional needs weren't being respected either. Healthy relationships require boundaries, even with traditions and celebrations. She might genuinely feel hurt, but this became about control. And for the first time, I felt seen. Moving on wasn't immediate. I blocked her on social media, changed my number, avoided mutual friends for months. The hardest part was accepting that the relationship wasn't salvageable. It wasn't just about the half-birthday anymore. It was about trust, respect, and emotional reciprocity. I realized I had two choices: stay in a relationship where love is conditional and always judged by others, walk away and reclaim my own emotional space. I chose the latter. Healing was slow. I sought therapy to untangle the trauma. I reconnected with friends who had remained neutral. I practiced mindfulness, journaling, and self-compassion. I learned several hard truths. Boundaries matter. Even small requests or traditions can't justify emotional manipulation. Social media magnifies problems. What's private can become public in seconds, and strangers' judgments can distort reality. Self-respect is essential. You can't survive someone else's expectations if you constantly erase yourself to meet them. Compatibility is key. Two people can love each other and still be incompatible, especially when their emotional languages differ drastically. Redditors, friends, family, everyone had an opinion. Some said I was cold, uncaring, even the villain. Others said she was manipulative, controlling, and unfair. And the truth, both sides were right in a way. I wasn't perfect. She wasn't perfect. We just weren't compatible. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes the right thing is to leave, not because someone is bad, but because the dynamic is unsustainable. Months later, I moved to a new city, started a new job, even went on a few dates. I still think about Lily sometimes, the good moments, the laughter, the ridiculous charm. But I no longer feel guilt, no longer feel like a villain. I'm not defined by a half-birthday, a viral video, or strangers' opinions. I learned to live life on my terms while still respecting others. And that, for me, was the most important lesson of all. If there's one takeaway from this whole mess, it's this: love is complicated. Boundaries are sacred. Social media can twist reality. And sometimes the hardest act of love toward yourself and the other person is knowing when to let go. I'll always remember the half-birthday. But now it's a lesson, not a weapon. I walked away with dignity, with self-respect, and finally with peace. Reddit, I'll never forget the whirlwind, the laughter, the arguments, the social media storm. But here's the truth. I didn't decline a half-birthday to hurt her. I declined it because I didn't understand its weight in her emotional world. I learned too late that some traditions are more than cupcakes. They're symbols of attention, validation, and love. But I also learned that your emotional survival can't depend on someone else's approval, especially when the world is watching. So AITA, I leave it to you.